Today we're hiking Wire Pass up down the same road as the Arizona Northern Terminus, Arizona Trail Northern Terminus, excuse me. And it's obviously in this very red, rocky, Utah-esque area. This is my second time actually exploring a spot in Utah. Unless you count the Arizona Trail, then it's 3. And I'm really excited to see what this is all about. Heard some great things. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Wave. Really hard to get permits. I think they give out like 20 permits a day or something like that. This is just downhill from there. It's basically the same trailhead, just we're going through a different slot canyon than up to the Wave. Permits to hike the Wave are some of the hardest hiking permits to get in the country. Only 20 permits are given out to hike that area of the wilderness each day. 10 in person and 10 ahead of time. The trail has rangers posted checking for permits. Be sure to plan ahead and prepare for your environmental impacts when exploring these fragile areas. Practice leave no trace and respect the rules to conserve this natural resource for generations to come. I'll leave a link in the upper right there to a video of mine going through the rules of leave no trace. You can find more information on the principles of leave no trace in the links in the video description. So same general area, and it's in Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, which is an area that's been met with a little bit of controversy recently through the federal government, but whatever, aside from that, national monuments in law are managed by the National Park Service, but unlike national parks that have to be dictated by a congressional act, a national monument can be written into law through executive order just by the president through a really old law called the Antiquities Act, which was from the Teddy Roosevelt era. So although this area has some amazing cultural significance for a lot of people and has some really awesome geological significance, a lot of archaeological stuff going on here too, I am under the belief that it should be protected, it needs to be protected, but sadly national monument laws really aren't that strong because it was only put in by a national monument law through executive order. The president can do whatever he wants with this land, technically, but I don't think that that's the right thing to do personally. I think this area needs to be protected through stronger means. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we journey through this beautiful red rock in Utah. So what are they? What the heck makes these canyons so special? From a geological perspective, there are many things that make Paria Canyon and the connected tributaries so special. Buckskin Gulch, which is the tributary of the Paria River that Wire Pass accesses, is thought to be the longest and deepest slot canyon in the world. At 12 miles long, close to 400 feet tall at its deepest point, and only roughly 10 feet across, these beautifully vibrant, steep sandstone walls form a natural marvel that tells an amazing story spanning millions of years. From about 570 million years ago to 200 million years ago, which is the Paleozoic to the early Mesozoic periods for you nerds out there, this area was actually under the sea. New life prospered in Utah's seas. Fossils of ancient corals, some of the first vertebrates, and even the massive killer whale-esque Dunkleosteus have been found nearby. About 200 million years ago, as the seas began to recede, it left sand dunes almost identical to the dunes found in White Sands National Park. After millions of years of geological processes, this material got compacted into the sedimentary rock we now call the Jurassic Navajo Sandstone Formation. Beginning about 15 million years ago, with the uplift of the Colorado Plateau, eons of water and wind has slowly carved through the sedimentary rock to form the slot canyons as we know them today, with their beautiful rounded edges illuminated by a sliver of light that causes the rocks to come aglow. The rocks are intensely colored by trace amounts of red iron oxide and others such as bluish manganese, creating the beautiful colors banded throughout the rock. These canyons also have a long history with humans. For thousands of years, native peoples used this area. Ancient petroglyphs, granaries, and campsites indicate that ancestral Puebloan people utilized the wilderness between 200 and 1200 AD. They managed to hunt bighorn sheep, mule deer, and even managed to grow crops such as corn, beans, and squash in the lower end of the canyon. Paiute people later utilized much of the area before Europeans arrived. Because there aren't any habitations or large areas, archaeologists believe the canyons were primarily used for travel. The first Europeans to come to the area were from Spain in the Dominguez Escalante expedition in 1776, and later the area became an important route for settlers in the late 1800s. By later in the 1800s, they were used as a hideout for outlaws in the times of the Wild West. Interestingly enough, 89A actually closely follows the path wagons used to use in the time of pioneers, between House Rock Road and Jacob Lake. Now, the canyon is primarily used for recreationists like hikers, backpackers, and even horseback riders. This area links up with many different trail systems, including the Hayduke Trail. Much to my surprise when researching the area, the story of conserving it doesn't go back all too far, although the area probably suffered a bit without protections at first. The 11,200 acres of Pariah Canyon Vermilion Cliffs Wilderness Area was protected by the Arizona Wilderness Act of 1984. A few other wildernesses we've explored in this channel, such as Fossil Springs, Mazatzal Mountains, the Superstition Mountains, and Miller Peak wildernesses, were all created by this legislation. The 1.7 million acre Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument was established in 1996 by President Clinton. It initially protected much of the upper Pariah River and surrounding country and was the largest land national monument in the country. It was later reduced to just over 1 million acres in 2017 by an executive order of President Trump that was a part of the largest rollback of public land in U.S. history. The wilderness and surrounding area were incorporated into Vermilion Cliffs National Monument by executive order by President Clinton in 2000. Over 294,000 acres protected in all under the Antiquities Act. While the wilderness is protected under an act of Congress, the additional national monument areas surrounding it aren't, and can be undone by any president through executive order. There have been 17 wilderness study areas within the national monuments found to have wilderness characteristics. They are currently being managed to preserve their natural conditions until Congress passes wilderness legislation. Hopefully this happens sooner rather than later. All the way up there is a log. It's probably at least 25 or 30 feet in the air. And that's how high the water gets in here during a flash flood. Like, absolutely ridiculous, guys. I don't think the wide angle lens really does it justice, but it's a ways up there. Again, stay safe, friends. This area is very dangerous. If there's any sort of rain, even upstream, it could be a blue sky above you, and there could be rain upstream, and it can rush all the way down here before you'd even know it. You can get in a lot of trouble. So, if you're gonna do a hike like this, research the weather ahead so that you're prepared. So what challenges are land managers facing in protecting this beautiful area? Just like I've talked about on the Arizona Trail and on Saguaro Lake a few weeks back, tamarisks, also known as salt cedars, are displacing native trees in the riparian areas close to the Pariah River, and can even be found in the Grand Canyon. Larger stands of cottonwood used to inhabit Pariah Canyon, but evidence suggests many trees were harvested by early Mormon settlers. This displacement has impacts on the ecosystem and can make it less resilient to disturbances such as climate change. Overland travel and defacing of the resource is another challenge faced by managers. Being the desert doesn't grow or change all that quickly, our impacts stay for much longer. Many signs were posted that said to stay on the trail. A sign I saw on the AZT in the Grand Canyon summed it up best. The desert grows by the inch and dies by the foot. Consider that when exploring these fragile areas. Another challenge is the weak government protections around much of this area. Without protections, things like overland travel, defacing of our natural and cultural resources, and overuse are much more likely. This can be extremely degrading to the terrain, plants, archaeological, and paleontological resources that we don't even know about yet. Many areas within the National Monument and Wilderness Area have yet to be assessed for the archaeological and paleontological value due to their remote nature. This makes conservation decisions difficult because decision makers don't know what is at stake. As of February 2020, the 700,000 acres of land removed from Grand Staircase Escalante by President Trump has a final management plan that allows for resource extraction and grazing in much of its previously protected area. Many of the tribes that have cultural heritage tied to the area, including intertribal councils that were formed to protect the heritage of the first Americans and be sure that their voices be heard, have said that these decisions were made without bringing them to the table. Without them at the table, their heritage and culture won't be protected or respected as well as it should be. This poses some other problems with the management and protection of the area, and we will see what comes of it as time moves on. The Paria Canyon Vermilion Cliffs Wilderness Area and the surrounding landscape is a unique and magical place that is packed with history and culture. Hopefully Congress can figure out a better plan to protect this beautiful natural resource so humans can learn and be inspired by it for generations to come. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please hit that like button if you like this video and hit that subscribe button. Be sure press that bell icon so you get a notification when I post my next video. See you guys in the next adventure. Take it easy. Friends, I was kind of disappointed that none of my video turned out from the northern terminus when I was here last. So here it is, the first few steps of the Arizona Trail. It's pretty dry and red and deserty up here. It's kind of funny. I'd say it's almost more western looking than the southern terminus, which is in a giant grassland, but here it is, northern terminus. The monument, trail goes off that way, all the way to Mexico. Kind of cool.